Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So in this video, once again we are covering the game from the candidates. We are still at round 7 and yeah, the things are heating up because as I've said, Caruana won the game against Aronian and now he is the sole leader after round 7 with 5 out of 7. So a very great tournament for him. But here we are focusing on two guys who maybe haven't actually yet had a chance to prove themselves in the tournament. Because, okay, on one side we have Karjakin, who haven't yet won the game, and last year he actually challenged the world champion. But on the other hand we have Wesley, who actually won a game in the last round, which yeah, kind of brings him to the right path, but he still has to prove himself and get back into the game with the winners and the leaders of the tournament. That being said, I would like to show you the game, so let's do it. d4, knight to f6, c4 and e6. We have knight to c3 and bishop to b4. So more frequently on this tournament we would see that players play knight to f3, actually avoiding the Nimzo-Indian with bishop to b4, going for more stable lines, or even f3 was played. But here Karjakin isn't afraid and he goes right into it with knight to c3. Now we have e3 and castles by black. We have knight to f3 and d5, bishop to d2 and c5. So as you can see, Wesley isn't looking for any defensive play. He is going very active, but the problem with this situation is you are going active with black and that could lead to very drawish middle games and end games, because in a sense all of the pieces get exchanged because all of these pawns aren't blocked or anything, rather they just get exchanged, and then also the queens and everything like that. But nevertheless, we will see what happens in this game. We have a3, and now a more standard line would be, for example, bishop takes on c3, bishop takes on c3, and now for example knight to e4 for black, and now the play moves on. But here in this situation actually Wesley decided to play a sideline, which is c takes on d4. We have a takes on b4 and now d takes on c3. Bishop takes, and we see that white is left with a bishop pair, but he has doubled b pawns. So in a sense he got something and he lost something, and the play moves on. We have d takes on c4, and now this is more emphasized the weaknesses of this b pawns, because yeah, Wesley immediately took on c4. We have bishop takes on c4 and now the queens get exchanged. And now king takes on d1. A very smart decision, because in a sense you don't want to go castle because the queens are off the board and there is no immediate threat. Next move you will play king to e2, so there is no real threat with knight jumps. And essentially yes, so you want to keep this rook on this open a file rather than putting it on the d file. You will move the king and bring the other rook to the open file. So that is probably the plan, and should be the plan, and we'll see what happens. Bishop to d7 and king to e2. Now we have rook to c8, so as I said, you should use rooks and put them on the open files, and that's what black does. He is also attacking the bishop, so bishop to d3 is played, and now knight to d5. And now we have a more active move, some like knight to e5. The thing is, Wesley is now in a chance to actually capture this bishop and also after that a pawn. But white after that will have more active play, because knight c3 basically, b takes on c3, we have rook on c3, and now you would have something like rook to c1, and this rook can take on c1 or he can go back. Nevertheless, whatever happens, you for example have this bishop takes, and when the other rook comes, yeah, you can play either knight to c6, and then as I said, then you would have this exchange where white grabbed the pawn back, but he has maybe a more active rook, and he could have played also knight to d7, but in this situation you have this intermediate rook check, so takes the bishop, rook takes, and knight takes on d7. So you have two pieces against the rook. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it is usually a good thing, but now the position is open up, this rook is more flexible, and yeah, and he has a pawn, so it is a position that that plays. So here in this situation Wesley didn't decide to go for that. He actually played bishop to e8, so moving this bishop out of the way, and now bishop to d2, moving also the bishop out of the way. We have f6 attacking the knight, knight c4. Rook to d8, so putting the rook on the open d file once again where the bishops are. We have rook from h to c1. As I've said, this rook wants to stay on this semi-open a file, and you bring the other rook on in the other open file, which is the c file. We have knight to c6 and now attacking this b pawn twice. Bishop to e4. Once again, a decision by Karjakin to go for more active play rather than staying and defending the pawn. And now we have knight from d takes on b4, bishop takes, knight takes, and bishop takes on b7. So no material is lost. Essentially, the position equalized even more because white gave up the bishop pair and he got rid of his double b pawns. Now we have rook to b8 and rook takes on a7. Temporarily, black loses a pawn, and he just needs to attack in order to bring this knight closer to this pawn, and we have rook to d7, first pinning the bishop. So you cannot really move the bishop because you lose the rook, so knight to a5 is played. This is the only move that defends the bishop, and now we have knight to d3, attacking the pawn and the rook. We have rook to d1, and now, so a potential threat also not just attacking these two things, because if you play rook to b1, then knight to c5 loses the bishop essentially. So this isn't something you would want to do. Rather play rook to d1, which was played by Karjakin, and now there is no knight to c5 because rook takes on d7, knight to b2 was played, and rook takes on d7, bishop d7, and now bishop to c6. So in this position, actually, everything is equal, pretty much all the pieces, so even the pawns are on the same files, on the same side of the board. And now the thing is, Karjakin is going for the exchange of these bishops, Wesley accepts, and now when we look into this position, as I said, it is a drawish equal game, but white is much more flexible and active in this position. This rook is on the 7th rank, cutting off this king. He will have trouble to going into the game, and this king isn't cut off or anything. He will just simply come closer into the game. Also, white's knight is much closer to the places where the battle will be actually leaded, rather than this knight, which is kind of there. But okay, it's not hard to come closer with the knights. It's only done in a couple of moves. The thing you should focus more about is actually the flexibility and activity of the white's king and the black's king. We have rook to e8, essentially defending this pawn, even though it wasn't attacked, but e5 could have also been played. We have now e4, so white would like to also expand his pawns, and the thing is, in endgames such as this, where you have equal material, everything essentially equal, you would like to create some weaknesses in your opponent's position. So we have knight to c4 first and king to d3. It doesn't really make sense to play knight to e5 because then you have simple knight takes, f takes, and after rook to a5, this pawn will fall. So here black plays knight to d6 and we have f4, trying to push e5, king to f8 and e5, f takes on e5, f takes on e5, and knight to f5. So once again, this king is kind of cramped, and this king can come closer to something like this, or even go like this. This knight is kind of pushed on the other side of the board, and now also with g4 even more. We have knight to h4 and king to c4. As I've said, king can come closer easily because there are no rook checks. This knight is placed really good on c6, and he is guarding, white's king from checks and allowing him to come closer to the game. We have knight to f3 attacking this pawn, and we have rook to a2. So moving the rook from the 7th rank, either temporarily or just because the king cannot come closer, and defending this pawn. We have rook to c8 and now king to b5. You wouldn't want to go king to c5 because then knight to e5 is an option because the knight is pinned. We have king to e8, and this is actually the move that cost Wesley the game. Because in this position, Karjakin played king to b6, and when you look at the position, you can see that this rook doesn't really have a square to go to. And this is something that, White would like to take advantage of. First, you would like to maybe defend this pawn, but the main idea is to play something like rook to a1, rook to d1, in order not to give an option to this king to come closer. Play king to b7, attack the rook. Also, if king decides to go to f7, then yeah, it is a simple case of pinning the knight. And yeah, essentially in this position, yeah, black is lost because all of these threats. Instead of that, he could have played something like rook to c7, because after king to b6 you have rook to d7. So maybe Wesley was afraid of rook to f2 immediately, but rook to c7 defends that, because you can come to f7 in front of the king essentially. The thing with this rook right now is that he is more flexible on this open d file. And yeah, this is essentially a drawn position. Knight can go back, g5, e4, he can move away, yeah, without a problem. And king, if he has time, he can go f7 and g6, go further into the position, and then all problems from black are actually solved. But as I said, after king to b5, king to e8 was played, and king to b6. We have g5, a little bit of expansion on the king side, but now after h3, Wesley decided first to sacrifice the knight. We have knight takes on e5, and now rook to c3 attacking the h3 pawn, rook to h2 defending, and king to e7, so bringing the king closer, and we have king to b5. So the idea is to put the knight on c4 so that the king can once again enter the position and go on the other side of the board where the pawns are. Now we have rook to e3, and at this point both players actually entered, they made their 40th move, so they passed time control. And yeah, in this position, after some consideration, Wesley decided to resign the game. So a first win from Karjakin, so long-awaited first win right at the half of the tournament. Hope he will win some more games and essentially prove why was he the challenger last year against Magnus Carlsen. An unfortunate blow for Wesley on the other side, who won his game in the 6th round, but I hope that this won't discourage him to just continue with this good play. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As I said, we are on the half part of the tournament. We have a sole leader in Fabiano Caruana. May I say also a very deserved lead, because yeah, he is playing most exciting chess. He has very good preparation, and he is going for a win in every game. No drawish openings with drawish middle games, just something active and always to look for something. And that is something that we want to see. Also, I'm also looking forward to the rest of the tournament, because in this other part people usually start to play more aggressively, because essentially they want to go back into the tournament. They still want to go for that first place in order to challenge Magnus on the end of the year. And yeah, that is pretty much it. One other note that I would like to mention is that this is from the next video. I will again show my face, so that's, I guess, a good thing. And yeah, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.